Thanks for coming in, Mr. Mahoney. Do you have your member ID card?
Yep, I have it right here in the FEP Blue app, see?
Great.
It's awesome. The app can also help me find a provider and keep tabs on my deductibles.
Okay, can I...
Oh, yeah, and my out-of-pocket spending and visit limits, and I can call the nurse line.
I'm really glad it does all that, but I only need to see your member ID card.
Oh, that's it? Why didn't you say so?
Fearless is just one tap away. With the new FEP Blue app from Blue Cross and Blue Shield, you can access your health benefits on the go. Download it now at fepblue.org/app.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Stranger Things 2, episodes 4, 5, and 6. Will the Wise, Dig Dug, and the Spy. In these episodes, Will is connected to the Shadow Monster now. And it turns out the Shadow Monster knows that. Welcome to Unspoiled. Dun, dun, dun. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Natasha.
I'm Maggie.
And so, 3 episodes in a row. What'd you think of these?
I loved them.
These were pretty good ones.
I loved them. And once again, I was really mad I had to stop.
That's fair.
I also now love Steve Harrington more than any other character on the show, which is odd.
It's a weird place to be, right?
It is a really weird place to be, and I don't quite know how to handle it, but I'm just going with it because I feel like it, based on what I'm seeing on Facebook, and I am scrolling really fast past things, but it seems to be the consensus.
Right.
So, so that's at least, I think, sort of spoiled me for the fact that he doesn't do anything to become an enormous douchebag in the last 3 episodes. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's as close to a spoiler as I think I've really come. Except for I've been spoiled for one other thing, I think. And I'm not going to mention it. But I'll mention it next episode. If it does turn out to be a true spoiler. It's not a huge deal.
So, yeah. These 3 episodes, like, what I had said previously was that the 9 episodes really has a pretty consistent arc with the way things go. It's a place setting in the first. Second episode is really like explaining the significance of things, and then the third episode is dealing with just the like flat out action, usually, of the result of like the consequences. So that
is kind of what happens in these 3 episodes too. Mm-hmm. That you have Will sort of explaining things to Winona to sort of reset the, like you said, sort of a place setting concept. Right. And then all sorts of interesting stuff happens in the second episode. And then in the third episode, things go shitballs.
Shitballs.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the 4th episode is, that's the one that is called Will the Wise. And it starts right where the previous one ended, in that Will is still standing outside on the field at school, and Joyce is in the middle of like speeding the fuck over there, almost running over children in order to get to the school. And Will is out there with his eyes like half open, like he's having a seizure, kind of.
Yeah.
And everybody, like when she walks in, she's looking for him, and she runs into the others who are also all looking for him. And it kind of cuts from him having this episode, again, as we keep calling them, to them at the house, her and Will. And she finally sits down and tells him, I know that you have really been going through this. I know that what you drew the other day wasn't an idea for a story. I think this is real, but you need to actually confide in me because I want to help you, and I can't do that if you aren't just straight up lying to me all the time.
Yeah, and I feel like I really love her on this show, and I love her that she's a really good mom to this kid, and she gets this kid, and it's so important as a parent. Really, the best thing you can say to your kid if your kid is going through something really hard is to say, I believe you. So validate their feelings, but not do it in like a cheap way. Like, oh, yeah, no, I understand. Like, I understand why I feel like that. Like, for her to really sit down and look at him and say, I believe you in this situation, just must have been such a relief to him. And it's sad that it took an entire year for them to get there, but I did. And now it's a little too late.
Right.
Which sucks. But so he opens up to her, and this scene is incredible. This kid.
His acting is ridiculous.
Oh my God. That was
looks like he's going to shake into pieces.
It was hard to watch.
Yeah.
Like his face turns like an entirely different color. He's incredible. Yeah. He really sells this.
And he just says, like, I feel it. It's like, I still feel it. And I just want this to be over. Yeah. Which is, like, pretty much exactly what she said to Bob, isn't it? Or to Jim, Hopper.
To Hopper.
She says to him, I just really want this to all be over.
Well,
sorry, sister.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
And I love when she gives him a hug. She looks down at the drawing while she's hugging him and gets this look on her face like, I am going to kill this fucking thing. Even though that's not really a thing that she can just do over there. But it's really...
Oh, she's so mad.
Yeah, she's looking murderous.
Yep.
So let's talk about a less successful parent-child
parenting
interaction.
Yeah, Hopper doesn't have this quite down yet. No. Although, believe me, this is so relatable. This is probably how you feel as a parent more than the other way. Or at least it feels like it, because these experiences, these sorts of interactions with your kids are so unpleasant and they stick with you. I feel like I can remember every time I've really flipped out on my kids. Because it feels like, and I feel like Hopper even realizes it. It feels like you're having a tantrum at your child. Even if it's justified, which here it really kind of is, you still are just so out of control of your own emotions. And it's one of the reasons that I don't really believe in spanking kids, because the few times that I did do it when my kids were younger, I realized really quickly, this isn't about them. This is about me. This is about getting out my own frustration on them, because I learned very quickly it was not teaching my child a lesson at all. It was just teaching her to be afraid of me.
Yeah, which is, I mean, I think is what people want sometimes.
Yeah, it totally is. And that's, that's fair. I just don't think that that's really, I think the action itself, the motivation has to either be, I want my kid to be afraid of me, or the motivation is, I'm so mad about what this child is doing that I need to get it out. And I really think that that's how it is. And it can be both. But you get to a point of this absolute frustration, and Hopper's there right now because this kid just put them both in horrible danger, and he's freaking out on her behalf. He's scared. That's what makes parents freak out more than anything else, is when they're scared for their kids. Yeah. And then they get really angry. Like, your kid runs into the street, you're going to flip out on them. Take that and, multiply it times 1,000,000, and you've got what's going on here.
Yeah, the thing that's because I was actually talking, Rashawn wasn't as big a fan of this season as I was. And she cited the way that he interacts with 11 as being just so unpleasant that it bothered her a lot. And I was like, but the first time 11 leaves the house, she
fucks up.
Goes to a woman's yard, draws attention to herself just by being there, being weird, and then purposely goes out of her way to freak the woman out with her telekinesis, and then just vanishes. She does everything weird in one shot. What? And we talked about this before. Hopper lost a daughter already.
Yeah.
And of course he's even if he hadn't, he completely is in the right to be as paranoid as he is.
Yeah, but he's dealing with a lot of trauma and extrapolating it onto this circumstance, which she does not know.
There's just so many layers to why he is so worried and freaked out here.
Right.
And then, you know, it escalates from them just yelling at each other to her throwing things at him with her telekinesis. She chucks a book at him. He's walking towards her, and she, like, moves the couch and goes to her room and throws down a bookshelf, slams the door in his face before he can get to it, and he's screaming at her through the door, and she kind of crumples and starts crying and screams, and all of the windows in the house burst. Yeah. Which I found out later was an actual practical effect, that they actually burst all the windows.
Wow, that's cool.
And that the staging of the shot, he was actually standing there when it happened. But they knew he was far enough forward and his back was to it that he was not likely to get injured.
Get hit by anything, yeah.
And he was just like, yeah, let's just do it. I just want to do it.
I love him so much.
Yep. So that's a pretty amazing effect. Like, it does look awesome. Pardon me, everyone. I'm having a cup of tea that's just life-giving right now. So, yeah. It's just it's a bummer, this fucking moment. Like, because you like them both and you want them both to be okay, and there's just not really, like, it doesn't feel like there's a way for either of them to be okay.
Yeah.
There's no
Where do you
option.
find a middle ground? Yeah. Because, like, she came as close as she could with the idea of being a ghost and being totally covered up. But, you know, he shouldn't have said from the start that he was going to let her go out at any point, because clearly... Yeah. There's no way for him to get to that point to be able to let her go out. And I don't know where he thought this was going to go in the long run.
Well, that's kind of what I was wondering, because I can't help but think that maybe he thought after everything went down last year that lab would just close up shop and stop their shit. That he could eventually let her go because they would, like, you know,
just peace out.
Move on, basically. Yeah. And, you know, not only have they not moved on, but they can't now, it looks like, because of the fucking growth down there that is completely out of control. So it doesn't seem like that's something that, even if they had wanted to reset shop up somewhere else, that's not an option anymore. And I don't think he maybe knew enough about the situation to realize how completely impossible her actually being able to leave and live her life in a normal way in this town was. It was just never going to happen, and I don't think he realized that. You know, he didn't have all the information at the time.
Yeah, you don't know going into it in that sort of situation. He found her in the woods and he rescued her and he wanted to keep her safe, and now you're just sort of an impossible situation.
Yeah.
So I feel bad for both of them. He did not behave like the adult in this situation, for sure. But I get it. Like, the thing where he's like, you're grounded, that means no TV for a week, no TV ever again. Like, I've done that with iPads, I swear to God. You have to then walk it back and be like, I didn't take the iPad away forever. You shouldn't have said that. You can't have it for a week. We'll talk about it after that. You know, just having to kind of come down from being like, that was an unreasonable thing. I was amused that he ripped the wire out of the TV and she freaked out because you see her looking at it later.
Yeah.
The wire. And I'm like, you could fix that.
Yep.
You didn't do shit. Like, just twist those things up and put them back in those little holes. I've done that a million times. Like, I had an old tube TV with no cable for so long. Just, that is not tough. You should be able to figure that out, girl.
Yeah, I felt frustrated with him in that that's all she's got to do is the TV.
Yeah.
And you take that away. You think she's staying in the house? Like, what do you think what?
Well, and he doesn't know that's how, does he know that she's communicating or getting through by using it? Yeah, you're right. That's what's painful about it. It's not like this is the only thing she has to kill time with. This is the only way that she has any connection with the outside world. That's cruel.
Yeah.
To take that away. That's not just, you can't watch The Price is Right anymore. Yeah. which in and of itself would really suck if you're not allowed to leave the house. But
yeah, it's like being homesick from school and the power's out.
Oh God, that would suck.
Yeah, you know.
But this is literally like it's the only way she gets to see anything but the inside of this house. It's the only way she gets to see people she cares about. And he took that away from her. And that's cruel. And that's what really flipped her out. And I get that.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have done that. Because he knew perfectly well what that meant.
So back with Joyce and Will, she is taking his temperature. And he's
freaked me out. This freaked me out so much.
This was real. There's something about it being cold that just makes it worse somehow. I'm not really. It's taking his body and just doing whatever. You know, like. And
she's trying to keep calm here. I love her acting in this moment where she's like, "Huh, oh." And he's like, "Do I have a fever?" She's like, "No, actually, you're cold." And she's like trying to make it as like,
"Oh, I'm just puzzled like you are.
It's fine. I'll just go. We'll warm you up. It's fine. You'll be fine." He knows it's not fine.
Yeah, definitely. Pardon me, everybody. I'm going to move my mic because it can be loud. So yeah, she goes and runs the bath. And as we see later, he drains that shit because whatever's in him knows that it's too hot. And
he's sweating just walking into the room.
It's super gross. The
and they're talking about it
throughout these episodes, honestly.
Well, but they're talking in the background. The teacher is talking about panic reactions. So he's having a combination of the panic reaction, but also the physical reaction of this thing inside him reacting to the heat.
Right.
Which is an interesting combination. Poor kid. This kid.
He has got no breaks.
No.
Like, it's just... So, Dustin, this fucking kid...
I can't with Dustin this season. I really can't.
He found Dart, didn't tell his friends, is feeding Dart fucking
Baloney?
Three Musketeers, which, listen, that thing deserves Three Musketeers.
Yeah. Give him the fucking Three Musketeers.
I know that apparently this is a controversial stance because I made a post about this a few days ago and everybody was like, I like them. Well, you're all wrong and you're all bad people. So enjoy your shitty candy, you monsters.
Yeah, I'm on the outside of this argument. I don't eat candy bars, so you guys just fight about this. Do whatever.
Only monsters like them, as evidenced by this show.
I think Three Musketeers might be the only candy bar I've ever eaten, and I was like 3, and I have this vague memory of it, and I was like, that's pretty good, and that's all I got.
I mean, if it's the only one you've ever had, then fine.
But sure, yeah,
fine. You're allowed to like things that are terrible if you've only ever had that one terrible thing. But come on.
But yeah, I'm just looking at him. He's got this dumbass smile on his face. He's like, "Hey, Dart," and I'm looking at him like, does it not concern you that it's like doubled in size overnight? Look how big that thing is.
Yeah, you know.
So big, but it's still making like cute little chirpy noises at you, so you're like, what are you doing?
And it
Dustin.
is like weirdly, clearly connected with him somehow. Like he's, I don't mean connected like Will's connected. I just mean like, it does seem to trust him. Like when he comes across it in the bathroom, it stops and it's like, oh, you're the guy. You're fine, you know? But it ain't your cat, buddy.
Yeah, that's a funny line. I love that part.
God.
That was really good.
I felt so bad. Muse.
Oh, I know. They did not shy away from that either.
His mom.
Oh, his mom. His mom outside, like, Musey, and, like, shaking, trying to get the,
It's so sad. I can't.
And he sends her off on the wild goose chase, and he's actually talking to the number you have dialed voice that does not exist anymore. I guess it kind of does. It doesn't happen very often. But, like, oh, yeah, it's out there. Go help them find it. And getting her out of the house. That's later. Sorry, but just Dustin, come on.
Yeah.
You have made a series of very poor decisions here. I think
like,
more than anybody else.
At that point, it's like the only option, right, is to just like lie to his mom to get her out of the house. But like, oh, God. I just feel so bad for that poor lady.
Yeah.
At least he finally has come to his senses, but it's too goddamn late now.
It's way too late. Oh, yeah. We'll talk about it being way too late. Like, way too late.
Way. So let's talk about Steve, since you were saying that you like him now. Steve is weirdly getting picked on. There's
with
that
ridiculous
song.
Game. The ridiculous "Take It to the Limit" song playing in the background. As soon as that started up, I just started laughing. I was like, "This is just such a parody of itself right now." And I'm assuming that the plot line with this guy is going to go somewhere other than he's a dick to his sister and he's a dick to Steve, but I just don't want him on my screen right now because it's just annoying. I keep seeing people posting his audition video, and I'm like, I don't care. I don't like him enough to watch that. I don't.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I guess he's pretty. Sure, fine, whatever.
He's very pretty.
When you take that crazy hair off of him,
yeah,
fine.
He's stunning.
But yeah, so he's like pushing Steve around, and Steve is like, man, can't we just play a fucking game of basketball? And the guy's like, nope. And then in the shower picking on him, and then that fucking freckle-faced kid that I hated in the first season shows up in the shower
with his fucking Joker mouth.
I hate him so much.
I'm screenshotting this right now and sending it to you so you can see that he has got a Jack Nicholson Joker mouth.
You don't need to send it to me. I've seen it. I do not want to look at his face. It's an awful face. It is a terrible face.
I'm doing it.
He's just the worst. Because I mentioned in the first episode we saw his shitty girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there's his shitty girlfriend. And then he came back. I'm like, oh, we got this many episodes in. I thought we were not going to. Oh, fine, I'll look at his fucking stupid, ugly face.
Look at his Jack Nicholson Joker mouth.
Oh, it's the worst.
I mean, how does that even happen?
No,
he's so creepy.
Yeah, he's super creepy, and he's awful, and he has an awful laugh, and he's he's terrible.
And he's just like, I really love the fact that Steve is not bothered by Billy taking his spot as king of the school. No. It's just that this guy will not leave him alone is the main thing. Just let me live my fucking life, guy.
Right. Can I take a fucking shower?
Yep.
Do what you want. Just get out of my face.
And the shower is weird also.
Showers are weird.
I don't like that.
I don't know. I feel like if I was more sports, I would have seen more girls in showers together, but really... No, like there were showers in our girls' locker room, but nobody ever took them because we were all like middle schoolers who didn't like feel at all comfortable about being around each other naked. Like I think one time we had a coach who made us take showers and we would all go in one at a time because we were so creeped out by the whole idea. But guys just do that. Guys just shower next to each other, and that's very close proximity. Like that's just like a single pole with a bunch of showers.
Yeah, that was the main thing to me was the way that it's set up is you got to be really up in people's business. And
real
I'm like,
close to each other.
And I know, like, there's a lot of movies I see where women are showering together as well, like in high school and stuff. But same experience in high school for me. Nobody used those showers. Like, the only time that we ever did was when we were doing something where we knew we weren't going to get a break before we, like, had to go somewhere else after. And that was so rare. And usually they would bring a bathing suit and shower in their bathing suit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was the sort of kid who would change in a stall. Like, there's no way I was getting in a shower with anybody unless you were, like, physically forcing me to.
Right. So, yeah, Steve is just, like, really kind of over it at this point.
Right. But they're the ones who tell him that Nancy has run off with Jonathan.
And as it turns out, she has this whole other plan.
I'm impressed.
Same. When I realized what she was doing, I was like, oh, shit.
She does occasionally have a brain.
Yep. And they set this up to be really, really creepy at first.
Yeah, that scene in the park is definitely very creepy because it's not just like one person watching. It's all the people. It's like an entire, like those kids must be just like props they brought in from some like weird CIA central casting unit because everybody in that park is actually there watching them.
Yes.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's
that seems like overkill, but okay.
It reminds me kind of there's a scene in the second John Wick movie that's kind of like this. But yeah, the whole car is surrounded and this guy is giving them this real neighborly smile. Are you sure you don't need that ride? And like really, even once they like the jig is up and we all know what's happening here, he still keeps that creepy, friendly smile on his face, which somehow makes it so much worse.
Oh, it really does.
So, finally,
that really makes it seem like he's going to murder them,
right?
Like it's real creepy.
So finally, Hopper gets the messages that Joyce has been calling and calling and calling and calling and calling and calling.
This poor secretary.
For my sake.
I love his answering machine message. How funny is
doing something amazing right now.
I love it so much.
Okay, Kat, you better make like a cat and go sit on the floor. She loves to rub against my microphone, and it's really, really loud. Like, you know, it doesn't sound it to me at the time, but once I go and edit episodes where I know that she was like trying to get up on the desk, it's crazy the sound that this mic makes when it gets like moved around too much. So Will is sitting there real creepy on the edge of his bed, staring into space. And they're trying to ask him what the hell's going on, and he can't describe it. And finally, Joyce is like, why don't you draw it? Joyce, the genius here.
This is another one of those moments where it's like, this woman knows her kid. And it's so important when you have a kid who's having issues, like you have to really find another path in to get to them. And she's on it. She's figured it out because she knows her kid that well. And I loved it. I loved that moment so much. It gave me warm fuzzies. And she was like, really, you know how this could work? Yeah.
Because I find it to be the kind of thing in a lot of media when they're trying to portray a mother's connection to her child. It's only just, I just love my kid so much, which doesn't mean anything to me when I watch it. You know, like there's nothing to grasp onto there because I'm not seeing all I'm seeing is you like clinging to your kid, but that's not enough for me to like get it.
Yeah, that's not you knowing your kid and loving your kid for who your kid is.
So that's I really feel like the writers like got a way to make this relationship between the two of them matter to me. And this is like a mother and kid. That is just not something that I usually connect with at all. Like,
and the fact that we didn't actually see them together in the entire first season, like the entire first season, you get one scene with them where he's conscious at the end. Like they don't see each other in the first episode at all. So it's an entire season of her being like, I'm looking for my kid. I'm looking for my kid. I'm looking for my kid. And for him to come back and for us as an audience to be like, oh no, she really does have an actual connection with her kid. Really, I think in retrospect makes that whole first season even a little bit better. Makes the trauma of it that much harder to watch because we're not just hearing, I love my kid. We're seeing how much she really loves her kid. Yeah,
that it's not just like this superficial sort of, well, he's my child. Of course I love him. It's I have taken the time to listen to him and get to know him and
especially given what her life situation is. And she, because she has to work, she has to do this all on her own. She's got her dickhead ex-husband coming around every now and then just to be a dick again.
Whatever happened to him at the end of last season? Did he just leave?
He was an ass about something and she finally told him to go, I think.
That's right.
And he left all too happily. But, he, just the fact that even despite all of that, she's really taken the time to be in a real relationship with him. The flip side of that, however, is I don't feel like Jonathan has the same bond with her. And that may have something to do with just the different situations that they grew up in. Like clearly he was there with his dad more, you know, like he had a whole part of his life that was him and his mom and his dad, because he's that much older than Will is. And I think that changes the dynamic. Whereas with Will, I think for a lot of the time it was, you know, for so much of Will's life, it's been Joyce and Will needs her, and she's all he has parent-wise, that I think that'll change the dynamic of any sort of parent-child relationship. I don't get the sense that Jonathan really resents it, but that moment where he comes in and finds them sleeping together.
Yeah.
And she's all snuggled up next to him. There's a little bit of that where I think he's glad that his brother has that, but at the same time, it's like, well, I guess I'm just going to close the door and go do my other thing now. So.
Yeah, just kind of like, well, I guess I'll leave you two to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's basically when Will starts to draw all of the, the
vines,
crazy, weird pieces of a picture that look like nothing, and props to Joyce for figuring that out, because
exactly, another like Joyce brilliant moment to be like, no, these must mean something, and to be able to look at what her child has created and be like, here, this is where they go together here. I don't know, that's just one of those things, again, like being a parent of autistic kids, you have to spend so much time trying to figure out what they're trying to get across to you at certain points. Because they're not able to communicate in standard ways.
Right.
So understanding why my child is saying this random phrase, because he's clearly trying to communicate something, but he can't just have a conversation the way that your average 3-year-old or 4-year-old would be able to have a conversation. You just have to pay really close attention and understand that, yes, it has to connect. There is something being communicated here. This isn't just random. And she trusts that. She looks at this and she's like, this is not random. I need to find the pattern.
Yeah.
And she does it relatively quickly.
Yeah, she does. So they work like all afternoon basically on putting those pieces together. But once they still don't really know what it is until Bob the brain.
Well, no, first Hopper fucking leaves without actually clarifying where he's going.
Oh, true.
Which made me this was my, clearly this was my Nancy going into the tree and me yelling at the screen, but even worse because he was alone and he didn't tell anybody where he was going. Like, at least Nancy was in the same woods with Jonathan when that happened. True. He just says he's drawing vines and leaves. Like, that means shit to her.
Yeah.
And just goes off into the pumpkin field, digs a hole in the ground until he finds goop, jumps in the goop hole by himself.
Jumps in the goop hole.
He does. He's just like, well, I guess I'll go down here now. I'm like, Hopper, like, call someone, tell them where you are before you jump into the goop hole by yourself.
Oh, bless.
Because I mean, when he hits, when he gets far enough into the hole, it just says like gurgling in the subtitles, and I'm like, blah. But yeah, God. Just talk to people. Like, this is like you and me and Daredevil all over again. Just tell people where you're going. Yeah. Communicate stuff. Why he's like, I'm going to put my hat on in this jaunty way because I've figured something out, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm just going to leave. And she's like, all right.
And it is because, like, it's one of those things that I understand a lot of times how they don't have people communicate in order to create drama with them. And I hate that just on principle anyway. But then what bothers me about this is that he could say there's been something going on at a pumpkin patch. He could say anything and it would still take them a long time to find him. There's no reason that he can't give them any information because it's a lot to narrow down if he gives them that. So it would still, I don't know. It felt like they overdid it in terms of how much they wanted it to be a complete mystery, and they could have still gotten the same suspense out of it if he had acted like a real person and been like.
But they really did. They really did want to give Bob the opportunity to be Bob the Brain, which was adorable. And the moment where he says, "What's at the X pirate treasure?" just made me go, "Oh, show! You're so funny with your Goonies reference. How clever are you?"
Love him.
I know you love him
the most.
He's adorable.
I'm so like I was watching actually, after you said something about Daredevil, I was like, oh yeah, because I was watching old Daredevil episodes yesterday with my friend while we were doing something for Owen's birthday. And it came to me that, like, Foggy, I would date the fuck out of Foggy. I would date the shit out of Bob. Like, I just like these dudes with this
nice
great
guys.
vibe who are happy and fun. And is it super hot that Matt Murdock can just, like, flip around like a little flippy guy and beat the shit out of bad guys? Yes, it's super hot, and he is a very attractive man. But Foggy is magnetic. He has this charisma. And Bob, you just want to hang out with Bob. You just want to chill with him and, like, go to see a dumb movie because, you know, who cares if the movie's dumb? Bob is going to love this dumb movie. So even if I don't like it,
He'll make you love the dumb movies.
Yeah, it'll be
just
great.
by being around him. Yeah.
So this whole thing, and I know that shape. That's Lover's Lake. That shape, it's a heart shape.
Yeah.
It could be anything. But okay, sure. Yes, it's Lover's Lake. And then he's like, and that's such and such. And it's all, you know, it does not look like anything to me. Even when he's pointing it out, I'm like, is it? But
he's having so much fun.
He's just delightful.
Yeah.
So,
but we skipped ahead.
We did skip ahead. So the next thing is Jill, as I keep calling her, Nancy, and her freak boyfriend getting put in a room and watched by cameras as they wait to talk to Paul Reiser. Dr. Reiser.
Are we just going to keep calling him Paul Reiser?
That's
I think
fine.
we should. He's much more Paul Reiser-y in this episode. I found him very, like, in this little walk and talk, he was very Paul Reiser-y. He's like, I'm assuming you're behind me. Just, okay, come on. Like, you're getting a little sitcom-y here on me, buddy. But.
And I think it was Jamie who was like, I can't believe that you didn't mention that he was in Aliens. Which is how Owen recognized him. Because he's only watched the first episode and a half, and he didn't recognize him. And then he was at work, and I just got this all caps text. That new doctor man. He's Burke from Aliens, that treacherous little rat fuck. Owen.
That's a treacherous little rat fuck. I love it.
See, Owen's a perfect example of liking Bob Foggy types.
Because he's going to send you that text message.
And be super excited about it.
So excited about it.
But yeah, I've only seen Aliens one time, maybe twice. So it's not really a big reference point for me.
Yeah, same.
I've seen the first one like a trillion times, but...
I've only seen the first two, and I've seen them each once. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So... he comes in there and is just like, hey, I'm going to show you this top secret shit so that you understand what we're dealing with, and I can use it as a metaphor for killing you. Hi. Any means necessary.
Yeah. But I do appreciate him being like, look, this is what we're dealing with.
Yep.
And he does the whole, like, what if the Soviets tried to reproduce this exact thing? And I'm like, okay, yeah, Cold War, good.
Yep.
I think it's, if you really want to frame it that way, fine. Right. I don't think it's as cut and dry as that, but sure, because you're talking to civilians, it's easier to just always frame things as, but the Russians, at that point in time, at least. But really, I
not just
like
civilians, but teenage kids. Like,
yeah,
sure.
Exactly. Oh, believe me. Yeah. No, they showed that movie in, I think, like 82 or 83. There was this TV movie called, I think, The Morning After, which was about, like, what if there was a nuclear explosion? What if the Russians dropped a bomb on us? And, like, what if there was a nuclear holocaust? My sister was, these kids' age at the time. She was 12 or 13 when it aired. Mm-hmm. She had nightmares forever. She was having, like, panic attacks about protecting me because I was a baby at the time, like a toddler. And she was like, what would I do to save Maggie if the bomb went off? Like, this was really a big deal to kids that age. Whereas I was little enough that when the wall came down in Berlin, I was like, all right, cool. That sucks that there was a wall there. Like, it was just, and, Gorbachev was in charge basically through my whole childhood. And so things were always sort of moving in a productive direction.
Okay.
The whole time that I was paying attention to the news. And so I missed all the other crazy that was happening in the late 70s and early 80s. And it was all more of a perestroika sort of like, we're actually going to work on this sort of concept. And so I never had that terror, and these kids do.
Yeah, that's something that I'm really happy I missed. Also, the before this, when they had the drills of hiding under your desks during an
duck and cover.
Oh God, what a pointless exercise.
Glad we're sort of back to that here and there.
Pretend that we can hide from a nuclear explosion.
My mom remembers that movie so clearly from her childhood. She's talked about it before. I remember when YouTube first started, I went and looked for that video because she'd talked about it so many times. Like, that this was the ridiculous thing that they made us do as a kid. Like, it was going to do fucking anything.
Anything.
Yeah, and I'm like, there's a turtle, and they sing a little song, goes duck and cover. It's really
why would they have
stupid.
A turtle sing?
Well, the turtle doesn't sing. Other people are singing about what the turtle does.
Why wouldn't they have a duck do it?
No, because he can
right
cover
there.
himself. No, because he goes into his shell. So the turtle sees the explosion and goes,
have a duck getting into bed.
Pulling sheets over.
Yeah.
It's as effective as what they had the kids do, which was crawl under their desks. So a desk is not even a turtle shell. You're fucked. Nice try. But anyway, so he's being very honest with them, which I appreciate. He's not, he's not shady, secretive Matthew Modine. He's like, here's what's going on. If I have to kill you, I will.
Yep. So. And he's like, and so, I've been straight up with you about this. So, if you die, that's on you, because I just gave you all the information that you need to make a smart decision about this. Mm-hmm. So we find out later as they walk out of there that it was
a setup all along.
Yes, thank you.
She wanted to get in
had
there.
A tape recorder in her purse that she knew that they were going to come and find them, which I want to know what the fuck she plans on telling Patty's mom or Barb's mom, because she was supposed to meet them.
We never heard Barb's mom on the other end of the line.
No, I guess we didn't.
Was she calling? I don't know. Maybe she wasn't actually calling Barb's mom. I feel like they would have picked up on that. But they would have heard the other end of the conversation, but maybe she just called and canceled, said, never mind. Haha, this is kidding.
God, how do you cancel after saying something?
I don't know. I feel like that's I did think of that. I was like, how do we work our way around this story-wise?
Well, anybody who's listening to the show, if you know, that there was a way for her to call and, somehow hang up, but have them still tracing her call and not realize that, Barb's mom wasn't there anymore, let me know, because I'm just curious about that, because it just seems like an awfully huge statement to make, that I know something about your missing daughter, and then to be like, haha, no, never mind. Mm-hmm. Especially after being like, and I can't tell you over the phone.
Right.
The whole thing. So
we'll let it go.
Let's deal with Lucas here now. Lucas had drawn the short straw to climb into the dumpster to find Dart.
I love Lucas this season, by the way.
Agreed.
I love that we've gone from Lucas last season, who drove me crazy a lot of the time, to Lucas this season, who I love.
Agreed.
Who's like, yeah, I'll get in the goddamn dumpster, losers.
Bunch of cowards.
Yeah, basically.
And Max is really irritated because she keeps trying, they keep acting like they want her to be part of their group of friends, but then keeping her out of the loop. Now, Cat, you see? She cannot, she's the clumsiest cat I've ever met. People talk about, as graceful and careful as a cat. No. She's like a pumpkin with legs. Max is yelling at Lucas outside and basically just tells him, you guys act like you want me to hang out, and then you keep me out of everything, and I'm sick of it. And when she gets in the car with her shitty brother, he's basically like, don't talk to black people.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify. That is what he is saying here, right?
I'm pretty sure that's what he's saying.
Because that's what I was taking it as, just because that seemed like the logical reason. But like, I guess I can't really ask that question because maybe there is something else shady in their past that gets revealed later that makes sense why he just wouldn't want her hanging out with him. But I was like, no, I'm pretty sure he just doesn't want his daughter or his sister hanging out with the black kid.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Pretty sure that's that. Which, ew. Like, let's add that onto the list of all the horrible things about this guy.
Yeah.
Because fucking ew.
Yep.
And for her to have to, like, now be saying to him, I can't be seen with you. Ugh. That, without having to specify exactly why. But he probably also has a feeling why.
That's my question, is whether or not she is picking up on exactly what her brother is saying here. And I'm guessing yes, because they live in the same house. And if he is saying shit, probably his parents have said shit. You know, whatever it is, it doesn't seem to have sunk in for her.
Right. Well, they're only step siblings. Maybe he got it from his dad and she didn't get it from her mom, and they haven't been together for that long, all things considered. So, I mean, that would make sense. But, you're going to hear that stuff coming from your brother if that's something that's on his mind. I mean, because this isn't casual racism. This is pretty much like, those people are not the people you want to be hanging around with. Like, ooh, those people. That's a good one. That's always a real classy turn of phrase.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, put that on the list. And Lucas finally decides that he's going to tell her everything. And she says the thing that everybody has said about Stranger Things who had criticism, which is, it seemed a little bit derivative. I just wish it was more original, that's all. Which, all right, show. Well played.
Yes.
They're like, yeah, guys, we hear you. Here. Does that make it better? We lampshaded it. Now can we do what we want? Jesus.
I'm glad that we get more of that nerdy arcade teenager guy. And I love that he thinks Lucas can somehow get him a date with Nancy.
And I love that Lucas is like, yeah, man, I'm totally on it. Like, yeah, that's not how that goes.
But yeah, so he's super frustrated that he told her everything and she didn't believe him.
She goes out there on the floor of the arcade and just fucking like starts spouting off real loud about Hawkins' lab and the Demogorgon and blah, blah, blah. And he like slaps a hand over her mouth and looks around and is like, shut up. And then she finally really like seems to believe that maybe he's for real, because he's acting terrified right now.
And I think she also has picked up on his character enough to know that he would not like literally put his hand on her face if he was not fucking serious.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's me coming as a person who really just not like people touching my face. But like, that's a serious personal space invasion. He's serious.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a personal space invasion, and it's like also, if you're not dead serious, super demeaning.
Super, super rude.
So yeah, that's got to be a real like, oh shit
eye-opener
moment.
Yeah.
So she basically is like, so I'm just supposed to trust you because you can't prove any of this? And he's like, yeah, you are. Just trust me. And it doesn't seem like, understandably, she has a whole lot of experience just trusting people.
No, which is sad.
Yeah.
I like Max.
Same. I do too. I feel like I really appreciate the fact that she really calls them out on the fact that they're acting like they want her around and then treating her like trash.
Right.
She's just,
she's like, I don't want to be the girl in this group. You want me to be your friend? Let me be your friend and stop keeping me on the outside of whatever this whole thing is that you guys have going on.
Yeah, I like that because he's like, I have to keep you out for your own protection. And she's like, my protection? What? Because I'm a girl?
And his reaction is like, no.
Yeah.
And for her to be, and then she says, did you have to do that with 11? And he's like, how the fuck did you know about 11? She's like, I know shit, just whatever.
I just love that she actually said it. She's like, because I'm a girl. That's just say it. Just say it. Just say it. I know. And it's like, no, awesome. It's not really, but it really, of course you would think that. Like, you know, it makes total sense.
And the fact that she says it out loud is pretty awesome.
Yeah. So I just really like her and I admire her and I think she's kind of badass. Which she would have to be to like withstand her shit brother.
Yeah.
And not have turned into a complete monster.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's going on with them for now. Now let's go back to 11. She's cleaning up because Hopper said that he will consider fixing the TV if she cleans up before he gets home.
Mm-hmm.
And she's pulling up everything off the floor and there's glass everywhere. And she's sweeping and notices this trap door in the floor and pulls it open and there's tons of boxes because he had said before that he used this place for storage. So she finds some information.
I liked the things, like, if you kind of pay attention to what those boxes are labeled, there are other boxes she could have opened that would have really taught her a lot about Hopper.
Yes.
Because isn't there one that's marked Sarah?
There's one that's marked Sarah. There's one that's marked Vietnam.
Dad.
There's one that's marked Dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot happening here.
Mm-hmm. But he's kept all the stuff about her.
Yes. And she sees a picture that has her father in it and starts to put two and two together. And she manages to actually get back into her
space. Using the radio.
What's it? The in-between. That's what I always call it.
Oh, yeah.
Using the white noise from the radio. And it is real creepy, this one.
Mm-hmm.
She goes in there and her mom is there in a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
And looks at her, sees her, says, Jane, and then just disappears into wisps.
Right.
And 11's acting in this moment.
Ugh.
She just like completely falls apart and it's so sad. I just, she almost, and she touches, like there's a moment where it seems like she's touching her.
Mm-hmm. And that's when she disappears. Yeah.
Ugh.
And, you know, it's something that hadn't really occurred to me until you start watching this episode, that all those experiments that were done on her to create, you know, a child that would be, you know, able to do the things that 11 can do would have some effect on her and her abilities too. And her apparent ability to do a lot of the same things that 11 can do.
Yeah.
So them having that connection that way, I thought was like, oh, because I found that episode last season to be interesting when they talk about what happened with her mom and the experiments and everything. I thought that was an interesting piece of the puzzle. So I'm glad they went back to it this season.
Yeah, same. Because I had kind of, I guess I didn't really think that they would do more with that, but I did wish that they would do more. Yeah. I just kind of wanted some more info on that. So
yeah, because I was kind of fascinated by that story, by how all of this started. Like we found some deadbeat hippies and gave them fucked up LSD. See what would happen.
Right.
Interesting things happened.
So, we end this episode. We have poor Dustin's cat getting eaten. Mm-hmm. We have Mike going to Will's house and, you know, Joyce is trying to be like, oh, he's not feeling well. And he's straight up like, it's the shadow monster. And she's like, oh, okay, so you know this.
All right. You can come in too.
We have Hopper going into a tunnel under a pumpkin patch.
I can't.
And that's pretty much the end of the episode, is him standing in that pumpkin tunnel.
Yeah. The pumpkin tunnel.
Really sounds like a horrible euphemism for something, but
oh god. Okay. So yeah, that's where that episode ends.
That's where that ends. So then chapter 5. Dig Dug. And this is really the one where Lucas tells her everything. Yeah. We've jumped ahead in a lot of this, but
yeah. And a lot of the Bob stuff happens in this one too that we already talked about.
Right. Hopper is like poking around down there with his flashlight like a dummy. We also get to see Lucas's family for the first time, which was great. God. His father with his mustache.
And she's never wrong moment about his wife. Oh, that was pretty classic. And his sister, who just has like nothing but disdain for basically everybody. Like, as soon as her parents' back is turned, she pours more syrup on her waffle, even though they told her not to. She's just like, whatever. I love her.
Yeah. It's called Code Shut Your Mouth.
So good.
Click. Oh my God. Kills me. They have a really nice house. I was just like, well, everybody's got such nice houses in this except for poor Will.
Yeah, we sort of established that last season. Yeah, that Lucas was relatively well off.
Yeah,
and yeah, his dad with his mustache and his newspaper, and basically sort of like almost the same sort of archetype as Nancy and Mike's family, only not horrible people. Mm-hmm. Which I like, that there's like, here's this other
connection between all of them.
Yeah, here's this depiction of this sort of classic 80s nuclear family sort of setup, but they're not all just assholes who really resent each other for their existence.
Since you brought it up, Nancy's dad.
Fuck Nancy's dad. And man. God bless Dustin for telling him he's full of shit.
You're really no fucking help at all. You know that?
Love it so much.
Son of a bitch.
Good. Yeah, and his mom sitting there like making cold calls for Reagan. Do you realize that's what she was doing?
No,
right?
I did not.
Yeah, she was making campaign calls. She had a sheet in front of her.
Bless her heart.
Of people to call. I guess it's not cold calling. I think they're having her call people she knew, like in the neighborhood. So like that's why she's making
probably.
Yeah, and that's why they're making small talk about Margaret Thatcher. And I was like, oh, you people are the worst. Just the worst. And that, you know, I saw somebody saying like, you know, oh, people comment about how these parents don't pay attention to where their kids are and they let their kids go off too much. And that's just the way things were in the 70s and 80s. And I'm like, okay, yes, to an extent. But Nancy is gone for fucking how long?
Right.
How long is Nancy gone? Like days. She spent at least 2 nights away. And her parents are just like, I guess she's still at that friend's house. Like, they do not care.
Nope.
At all. That's out of the ordinary. Parents wanted you to at least come home once a day.
I wonder if, like, because we don't see it, so I'm assuming not. But if she, like, did something to make it seem to them like, oh, I just went straight to school and then I had practice or so, you know, like, I don't know. But
it's still kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That to me, everything else where they're like out riding their bikes around, like that's the classic archetypal, like, oh, the kids are all, you know, helicopter parents and blah, blah, blah. And when I was a kid, it was Stand By Me. And I'm like, yeah, fine. True. But parents did also expect you to come back at some point.
Yes. Yup.
But Nancy's at a motel, and then she's at this creepy guy's house, and then just her parents are so checked out. I kind of love it.
And just how long it takes when she's like, will you get that? And there's like a beat of like 5 before he finally moves at all.
You know, he's terrible.
I'll get it. Like, oh my God, I just want to kill him. And I just... So, Owen's grandparents are very traditional. They're super Christian. Gender roles are a very big thing for them. The wife obeying the husband is a very big thing. Mm-hmm. And his grandpa is the biggest baby I've ever seen. I really like his grandfather in a lot of ways. We get along really well, too. But he is so gross in how he just expects his wife to do literally everything. Everything. It was Owen's birthday over the weekend. it's his birthday tomorrow, but over the weekend we went to his grandparents for his birthday, and like his grandpa's grilling the steaks outside, and he hasn't gotten started yet. Judy is over here going in and out of the fridge to get like 30 other things because she's made all of these other sides and everything. And he's just standing there staring while she does all this. And then with this petulance, well, where are the steaks? Because she has got the stuff she needed out of the fridge and then went over to the counter to start working on the thing that she is working on.
Yeah.
And he acts like he can't walk 4 feet to go in the fucking fridge and take the fucking steaks out his fucking self.
Yep.
Like, this kind of shit is, and she resents him. I know it. She says this shit to me, but she tries to act like she doesn't because she feels like this is what she's supposed to do. That's what kills me about it, is that I know she's mad and she'll call him a butt to me because she doesn't swear. So she'll say, oh, he's being a butt today. That's as close as she'll get to really, but at the same time, she's like, well, you know, women can really nag and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, we nag because they're like that, because he's doing that. You're not nagging. You're asking him to lift a finger for himself. And that's not nagging. You're just expecting him to be a goddamn adult. And we were in the car, like driving somewhere together, and she was talking about this. And she said something about the nagging thing. And I just lost it. And I don't swear in front of her, but I was just like, because they act like fucking toddlers. And then I was like, sorry. And she was laughing. Like, I only swore in front of her one other time by accident, and she looked really shocked. And this time she did not seem shocked at all. She was just laughing. And I was like, well, okay, then. I think it's just so hard to watch this woman who works so hard all the time and is mad and feels it that she's doing too much, but also seems to feel guilty that she's mad about it because she thinks that this is like her role to play and that she shouldn't resent what God has intended for her. And it makes me want to cry, frankly. Like, Jesus Christ, pun intended.
It could be worse. You could be in a situation where you don't feel like that's how things are supposed to be, and your husband still acts like that, and you do still call him out on it. He still does do that shit, and you resent it. It's real fun.
But she doesn't call him out. Even if she did and he didn't listen to her, I would at least feel like she was like saying, but she doesn't feel like she's really allowed to. So she doesn't. She just purses her lips when he goes, well, where are the steaks? Puts down what she's doing. Says in a low voice, oh, I thought you had gotten them out, sweetie. And goes and gets them and hands them to him. That's like, she doesn't call him out because she doesn't feel like that's what she's supposed to do. Yeah. I just wish that she would just call him out sometimes. She finally, she kind of snapped a little bit at dinner finally. Because he said something and she was just like, you know what? And I think he realizes when he's gone too far, and then he starts laughing and tries to pretend that he was joking. So when she goes, you know what? He started smiling and was like, I'm getting it, and went and got up. But it was like, she has to get mad. And he then acts like he's like, oh yeah, I was just joshing you. No, you weren't though. So in summary, Nancy's dad's a dick. I hate him. And Dustin telling him he's no help at all.
So good.
But yeah, Dustin doesn't go over there until he has used a baloney trail to lure Dart into a storm cellar.
He's taped all these hockey pads all over himself, which I love the idea that in another lifetime Dustin was a hockey goalie.
I don't know where, right?
Or street hockey? That's a thing. That was a big thing in the 80s. Maybe they just played street hockey sometimes, but it seems kind of out of character for them. It's not, But regardless, he's obviously can play hockey because he really wallops Dart into that thing with great accuracy.
Yeah,
and as somebody who has played ice hockey and was terrible at it and was really just there to be a giant hulking brute on the ice, and scare the other team until they realized I could not skate and had no puck handling ability. It is difficult to hit something with that sort of accuracy with a hockey stick. It really is. You'd be surprised. Yeah, my job was basically just to skate at people and freak them out. And then, like, by the second period, they'd be like, oh, she doesn't know what she's doing. And they'd swerve around me and I'd just slam into the boards.
Oh, my God.
It was fun. It wasn't my most successful, not my most successful attempt at a sports team. I tried everything. I really did.
I played field hockey was my jam. And I hated it so much that I just quit mid-season and was like, no, I'm going to join the drama club. But thanks, though.
That sounds appropriate.
I think my mom really just wanted me to be involved in a sport because I just hated exercise.
Yeah.
And I realize now that I didn't hate exercise really. It was just the kind of exercise that is always encouraged in high school is team sports. And I just hate team sports.
I do too.
It's the worst.
I mean, I was good. The one sport I was good at was rowing crew, which technically, obviously, is a team sport, but it's team sport, brute strength, no strategy.
And it's still very solitary, despite you're in your own head and you don't need to
Right. You have to sync up with everybody very carefully or else you will slam somebody in the kidneys with an oar, which is not pleasant. Nobody likes it. Don't do it. So you do have to really be paying attention, but there's also somebody calling out to you, stroke, 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 stroke. So you can get into this sort of hypnotic sort of mantra place and really just be doing that as opposed to being like, hey, I'm open, I'm over here. Or, make sure that you throw the ball to that base and then this base. I couldn't do any of that shit.
It's not in the moment communicating and strategizing. And that's the main thing is I don't like dealing with other people's dumb strategies because people are stupid and bad at stuff. And I just didn't really want to have any part in that. So that's really what it was. So
Dustin apparently hockey, whatever.
So 11 gets a truck driver to bring her to her mom's house. I'm not sure exactly how she knows where her mom lives.
I think it must have been in the file.
It probably was. It's just
because Hopper went to visit her.
I'm guessing it was. I just wish that we saw a little bit more of what's in that file because we really just see the photo. She does that, mind thing, and then she's getting out of a truck, and you're like, oh, okay.
I appreciate that they make it that she lives at 515 whatever street, so you get 11 saying the little wistful. The truck driver says, so here we are, 515. And she goes, yeah, 515 because of the whole thing with her and Hopper and that 515. I thought that was a cute little callback. Also, she's the luckiest child in the entire world that she found the world's nicest truck driver.
Yeah,
apparently.
A young girl,
that could have gone so wrong. That could have gone so badly. And instead, the truck driver's like, you apologize to your mom.
Oh,
I don't know how you found him, but God bless.
So she, I don't want your Thin Mints. I don't want your religious mumbo jumbo. Just leave me alone. It's the sister answering the door. And she finally uses her brain powers to open the latch, to pull the chain out. And it's just like, I'm here to see Mama.
Yeah, so her aunt's real freaked.
Yep. Surprise. You know how you thought your sister had invented everything in her head? Welp.
No.
And we find out that the words she keeps saying are all tiny pieces of a series of events that happened to her that were so significant to her that now she's kind of locked in this series of events forever mentally, which is a really fucked up thing. Holy shit. It's the most traumatic moments of her life, and she's reliving them unendingly for the rest of her life. Cool.
Yeah.
Neat.
It's awful. And, I hate the way they fry her brain. It's also just so upsetting to, hook her up to... Because, I know people who've done electroconvulsive therapy. It can be really effective if it's done properly. These days, they have protocols for doing it where it can be done safely, and you can get some memory loss, but it usually comes back. Carrie Fisher did a ton of ECT towards the end of her life because she had such intractable depression. And it really is effective. Nobody really knows why, but they put you to sleep, and they do it at lower voltages than that. They don't hook you up, crank it all the way up, and turn it on while you're still awake until they literally fry your brain.
Right.
And just watching that, I was like, holy shit.
Yep.
That's not how you're supposed to use those machines. That's fucked up.
Yeah, it is.
You're evil. Like, we know you're evil. We're already aware of that. But, like, seriously, like, how evil are we gonna... How many things can you do to this woman, Matthew Modine? Really?
Right. And the reason that they did it was because they stole her child. Mm-hmm. And she figured out where 11 was being kept. Mm-hmm. Jane, as we find out her name was meant to be.
I don't like it.
No,
neither. I'm not a fan of Jane.
Mm-mm.
But, I'll let it go.
And she goes in there and, like, shoots a security guard and just, like, busts up in that place. And 11's sitting there in, like, a playroom with another little girl. Mm-hmm. And...
Another little girl.
Yeah, another brown little girl.
Yeah. Huh.
And she gets grabbed and yanked away from there just as she's, like, about to reach out and get her daughter. Mm-hmm. And then they fry her brain. Basically, to keep her quiet. Mm-hmm. They're just like, yeah, we took your kid and now we're going to take you, essentially. And so, yeah, she's stuck in this memory forever, and it's the saddest thing ever. And I was just like, holy shit. This poor woman.
Yeah.
And 11 basically, like, kind of connects with her aunt a little bit. Mm. And, like, tells her some of what happened, but she's not really, like... It doesn't seem like she really trusts her either.
No.
Which, as it turns out, is... I don't want to say smart, because it's not like her aunt is malicious. Mm-hmm. Her aunt is just worried and doesn't know what to do with this random girl with powers that showed up on her doorstep.
Yeah.
Like, what are you supposed to do with that? So...
Anyway. What else is happening in this episode that we haven't gotten to yet?
I'm sorry, guys. My cat is once again rubbing against my fucking mic. So Nancy and what's his face?
Jonathan.
Thank you. Go and see discount Paul Giamatti, the private eye. I'm sure that this guy has been in other stuff and is an actor in his own right, but I do not know who he is. And I just kept thinking that he looked like Paul Giamatti if he lost about 50 pounds.
Yeah, I can see that.
And this guy might be one of my favorites because he is so insufferable, and yet he is right about practically everything.
He really is. Isn't that the worst when that happens?
Yeah.
Oh, I hate it so much when that happens.
So they come in and tell him everything that's been going on, and his reaction is basically, yep, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I completely believe all of that. Mm-hmm. But we can't just go telling people this because this sounds like utter bullshit. Mm-hmm. He's like, whether it's true is irrelevant. What it sounds like is garbage that somebody will come out and discount, and everybody will be very happy for that person to come out and discount it.
Because then they don't have to think about what is really happening behind the curtain, as he puts it, which I liked.
Yeah, so
he figures it out through liquor analogies.
Which, that is appropriate.
I have no problem with that. I can relate to that. And Nancy figures it out as the exact same time as he does. Mm-hmm. So, whereas Jonathan's like, what are we doing with the vodka?
Oh, Jonathan.
And
what are you here for?
Yeah, so they're watering it down. They're going to come up with something that make it slightly more palatable, but just enough to make it still like it'll take them down.
Right.
That's their new plan. And now they're going to drink to it.
Good call.
That'll go well.
I really like this whole strategy meeting
I do too.
And then he's like asking them, so, how long have you guys been together kind of thing? And they're like, oh, we're not together. What? No. Oh, what? No. What?
Oh my God.
And he just starts cackling and says, you've told me a lot of crazy shit, but that is the first lie.
Yeah. We didn't talk about the scene where they're in the motel they ask for a double, and the woman behind the counter just like
slurps
sips her drink, looking at them like, OMG. And they're real cute, and they're comparing their scars, and they're reminiscing about that lovely night they spent together in terror. And then he says something to piss her off, and I don't remember what it was.
I don't remember either, because we've gotten past that point.
We went past it, yeah. So anyway, but she's like, never mind, turn the lights off. Meh.
Yeah.
And rolls over. Yeah.
I think that, because I think she says, where did you go? Or something. Because, they haven't like hung out at all since that time.
Right. And he's like, well, you were with Steve. And she says, I waited a month.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting. Like, we didn't know that part. We just
we did
Steve.
Not. No, we did not know that at all. So that's interesting new information that kind of goes into this whole, oh, no, us? No, it never even occurred to us.
And it also retroactively, when we ended that last season, we were just like, oh, and she's with Steve. And we really attributed that to her making a bad decision. And
I think we attributed it to her making an understandable decision.
Right.
But probably
just playing
not
it safe to a degree that we were just like, oh, come on. And now we know that she was very on board to make the less safe decision. And he was the one who wasn't there.
Freaked out about it. Yeah.
So that's just, I really enjoy
Which
that.
Which seems in character. Like, it really does seem in character for Jonathan to be like, no, you couldn't possibly. No, fine. Be with Steve. It's cool. Because Jonathan can't, that's just how Jonathan is, it seems like,
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to put himself out there.
So
he's not big into vulnerability.
No, as Paul Giamatti says, you've got some.
You have dad issues.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the two of them get put into he takes the couch because they decide they're going to stay over again. And they both get up and go to talk to each other in the middle of the night, and then they go back to their room, and then they get up again, and they're right in each other's faces, and then finally they start making out, and it's insinuated that they had sex.
Yeah.
Which I'm just like, oh, okay, because that's a pretty big deal since, Nancy only had lost her virginity last season, and so that's a big step. And I'm not really entirely interested in the two of them together anymore. Because Jonathan feels kind of flat this season.
Yeah, he does.
And they're making Steve over here be really
I know.
great. So now you're just well, no, now.
Yeah, now you've made poor decisions. But in a way it seems right. Yes, they should have acted on this a long time ago, and it's kind of ridiculous that they hadn't. And this was clearly the perfect circumstance for it to happen, so it happened. And discount Paul Giamatti's real clever about it the next morning. He's so smug. How is that how was the pull out?
Pull out. What? Oh,
the
God.
Couch. Oh my God.
I just love him so much. Because I can be like this, because I'm pretty good at reading people, and I will just say shit sometimes, and I can be like this, but not to the degree that he is. So it's super fun to see somebody just kind of going all out with this douchery the way that I wish I could sometimes and don't. But yeah, so, and I think, a lot of it is just the fact that she feels like Steve wants to pretend none of this happened. Steve wants to live their lives and follow the rules and be smart about what will happen to their families or whoever in result. And Jonathan is still in this. For Steve, it's over. Jonathan's got shit going on. And so for her, I think that's the draw, is that she can be with somebody that she can still talk about all of this with, who wants to talk about it, who isn't just telling her to let it go, to keep it down, you know, and who understands what it's like to have lost somebody. They got Will back, but as Jonathan says, he's not the same. So in a way, Will that he used to know is gone, and they did sort of lose somebody, and this is hanging over their heads, and they're still connected to this fucking lab that did this whole thing, and that's, you know, gonna go on for God knows how long. So yeah, it's understandable why she'd kind of be drawn to him, even though I'm not really interested in Jonathan anymore.
No.
So Dustin's trying to get a hold of literally anybody. Everybody's busy. Fucking Lucas's little sister answers and tells him to shut his mouth and hangs up on him. And he goes over to Mike's house, and Mike's not there. His dad doesn't even know where he or Nancy is, and he's in the middle of just walking away in a fucking sulk. When here comes Steve with a dozen roses to apologize to Nancy and tell her he loves her and that he's sorry.
But I love what he's muttering to himself. He's trying to practice, and he's like, I love you. I'm sorry. He's going, sorry. What do I have to be sorry about? But he's still going to say it.
Yeah. So Dustin goes and like grabs them roses right out of his hand, and it's like, she's not here. Come on.
I like that he says, are those roses for her parents? And he's like, no. And he's like, well, then there's no point in having them. Come on, let's go.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty good. The two of them.
I like the two of them as a team.
It's super
Thumbs
fun,
up.
right?
I'm so there for it.
So while they're like teaming up, let's just talk about Hopper real quick, because he's like,
Hopper, you're a fucking mess.
He's under the pumpkin patch. There's lots of bones down there.
Yeah, he finds the boneyard. He wakes up from the poison that was sprayed in his face. Now he's walking around. He's leaving a little trail of cigarette butts behind him.
God.
He finds these bones. He makes a torch with one of them. He rips off his shirt sleeve, makes a torch, and realizes that the things are scared of fire. So he is trying to dig a hole through the wall.
Right.
Basically, he finds it, and him digging a hole through the wall. All I could think of, there's a line at the end of an episode of The Simpsons where they're trying to dig for treasure that clearly is not there, and they've dug themselves into a giant hole, and they're like, how are we gonna get out of here? And one of them says, we'll dig our way out. And Mo goes, no, dig up, stupid. And that's all I'm thinking of him, like, he's digging sideways. You gotta dig up, stupid, because you're not getting anywhere going sideways.
Oh, God.
But yeah, so, and theoretically in this situation, he could dig up, but instead he's like, I'm just going to claw at this wall until I get exhausted, and then I'm going to take a break. And no, you don't get to take a break. You do not get to take a break, because when you take a break, all these things are going to come, wrap themselves all around you, and choke you to death. So that's where we leave Hopper for a little while.
Yeah, because the opening had closed itself over, so he's just kind of at random, like, let me just find any way out.
Yeah, because he finds his way back to the start and is like, oh, fuck.
And at the labs, they have samples of the soil that they got, and they're, like, whirling in this, like, cyclonic sort of weird... Like, I'm not clear what this is supposed to mean, just that it's all acting abnormally.
I think it's supposed to show that if something happens to one part of it, it happens to all of it.
Okay.
Is the idea, that interconnection, which I think also goes back to, like, when they set the vines on fire, why Will has the reaction. Like, that's supposed to be, I think, a setup for that. That it's all one connected intelligence, basically.
So they follow Joyce and Bob, and Will follow the map, and Will senses when Hopper's nearby. I'm watching my cat literally fall off the fucking windowsill. It's a 5-inch wide windowsill. It's fine. You should not be falling off of that, my dude.
Can do this.
She is the dumbest. I swear to God. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I just keep getting distracted by how fucking stupid she is. I love her. She's adorable. But she's adorable like some doofy cartoon character that you're just like, oh, you idiot. So they go and are able to figure out like around where Hopper is. It's Joyce and Bob that actually go down into the tunnels, and all that floating pollen and everything just always freaks me out. It's such a nice touch to like add the whole atmosphere to the place and make it really clear. Like we're kind of in somewhere else now.
Right.
But it just really, they're breathing that shit. I don't like this.
That can't be good.
And Mike is with them too. I had forgotten that. He comes with, and Will has told them how he just knows stuff now, like without being told. And he talks
to Mike about this, like before they go. He says something about like, I just feel it all the time now, but what if it can feel what I'm doing too? And Mike's trying to like reassure him, like, no, that's not what's happening. And I'm like, Mike.
And he tries to be like, maybe you can spy on it. You're like a super spy now. So maybe this is a good thing that you can do this. To which, Will is appropriately like, good? What? And Mike's just trying to do his best. He's just trying to help his friend not feel terrible. So Joyce and Bob finally find Hopper, who's in some devil's snare over here, and get his pocket knife and cut that shit off. And it's still like moving and stuff. It's just so creepy looking. I hate it so much. And they're down there when I think it's like all the dudes start attacking it, right? The guys from the lab. Yeah,
they show up right at that point. Yeah.
And Will loses it, falls on his back, and starts shaking and screaming. So that's the end of that episode.
Yeah.
So, so let's talk about the spy. This one we'll probably get through faster because it's a lot of action.
Yeah.
But Will is being brought to the hospital, and they're trying to figure out what the fuck is happening because he's just screaming about how he's in pain and burning all over. And they keep being like, well, where does it hurt the most? And he's like, everywhere.
Oh, jeez. Poor thing.
And Hopper is getting like this really intense, horrible scrubbing from guys in hazmat suits. Oh God, I don't know why that made me laugh, but he's just so like irritated. I think that's what it is that it doesn't even seem like he's scared. He's just like, oh, come on, I love Hopper the most.
Yes.
And all this, like the shit is hitting the fan over here. And meanwhile, Dustin and Steve are heading back to his place to try and find Dart in his cellar. And it turns out Dart has burrowed his way out of there.
And I love that Steve is like, this is not a funny fucking joke, kid. When he goes down, he's like, there's nothing here. What? I can't believe you brought me here. This is crazy. And the fact that we didn't mention the fact that he says when he gets him in the car, he's like, do you still have that bat? Which I love. Steve's like, what bat? And he's like, the one with the nails in it. Like, obviously, duh,
what
dude.
Bat? Come on, buddy. Yeah, so Dart burrows like a long ways. That shit is no joke. And they realize that things are getting out of hand now. Like, now we have to figure out where he is. What? And Joyce is in a conference room yelling at the doctors who Paul Reiser's like, you need to trust us. And she's like, fuck you. You were the one who said to be patient and let like just ride this out basically. And now look what the fuck has happened. And he's sort of like, yeah, listen, I know. I kind of love it. He's just like, I would be really mad if I were in your shoes too. Like, he's not even trying to be like, you're overreacting or we have this under control.
He's like, no, you're right to be mad.
Yeah, you know, which I kind of love. And then we get the montage of all of the tapes being made by Discount Paul Giamatti, who is packing, like, he's sending them to what looks like at least 20 different news stations. Yeah. They've got a stack of manila envelopes over here. So that's happening. And what do you think is going to go on with that?
I remember on my first watch of it, I was like, I feel like this is bad timing. That was my first thought, is that this information is going out when your brother is now, again, under the care of these people, which, while it may turn out to be negligent care, is really the only option he's got at this point. Mm-hmm. And I'm concerned.
That's fair.
That was my thought. I'm like, Nancy, maybe like wait 2 days, because like, let's just see how this goes, because they're not going to get there fast enough to save him if they're going to set him on fire, because that's going to happen in like the next 2 hours. But if they are going to try and save him, the news stations may get there too soon to save him from, being possessed by this smoke monster in whatever way they attempt to do that, which I don't know how they would do that. But I'm just saying this is the only place that could maybe come up with an idea of how to do that. So let's maybe not have them swamped by reporters right this second. Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
That's just a thought. But yeah, we'll see where that goes.
So we have a brief moment of Dustin finally reconnecting with Lucas, and him and Steve have some buckets of meat and a baseball bat with nails in it and some rubber gloves. Mm-hmm. And they are heading out on the yellow brick road. Mm-hmm. Hopper is in a little gown and vomiting into a bucket. Mm-hmm. So that's cool. Mm-hmm. Poor fucking Hopper, I swear to God. This guy.
Hey, he brought this. I do not have a lot of pity for Hopper. He made a poor choice.
That is quite fair.
Come on. Why?
And they're like, hey, what if we just send you right back into that shit? How about that? Here's a suit. Let's go. Uh-huh. And they get in and go visit. Go to ground zero, basically. And while they're heading down there, Will is like passed out in a bed. And it turns out, because Joyce and Bob are standing there watching him, that Bob has been let in on everything. And that they're basically making him sign a bunch of forms to keep shit quiet. And
he looks freaked out, but also very cute about the whole thing.
He's just like, all right. Well, when she
said he hasn't
a normal family, yet. I guess she was true. And Hopper, while he's going down into this tunnel, is really getting a sense of just how enormous this thing is, because this is sort of like the heart of it. You have all of these tunnels branching off from this spot. And when they're talking about why aren't you guys burning it, they're realizing that it really hurts Will when they do it. Will is in such horrible pain. This friggin' actor, I swear to God, he's just too convincing. He creeps me out. He just has these eyes, They just cast really well for him. That's all.
Yeah. His eyes are really intense. They're a really interesting color. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he's, I don't understand how he's doing what he's doing.
Yeah, agreed. So Lucas goes to get Max, and her brother is smoking a cigarette and weightlifting in the living room. And she's
listening to some more terrible music. I don't even remember what it was, but it was also bad.
Yep.
Because he's a ridiculous person.
And Lucas being at her house is like worst case scenario. She's just like, fuck. And manages to get him to like get out of the line of sight before her brother goes to the front door. Only because Lucas is circled around to the back so she can climb out the window. Clever girl. Everybody, meanwhile, is gathered around Will's bed, and he is giving them information about where to go. But he does this after saying that they shouldn't have done that. It upset him in this real creepy face.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely, it was definitely foreshadowed that what he was doing was going to be, it was going to be bad news.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, they don't quite realize like exactly how much control this thing has.
Yeah.
So,
and it's getting more and more.
Yes. And they do this, experiment with this like piece of the vine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite a clear connection.
Yeah, there's no question.
They let it go for a little longer than they strictly needed to, considering how obvious it seems. So Steve and Dustin are walking down the railroad tracks, and Steve is giving Dustin very questionable advice about girls. Basically saying...
But then undercutting it at the last second, which is adorable. Right. He says all this garbage, which is all this stuff that he used to do with other girls before Nancy. Mm-hmm. And then when Dustin's like, yeah, but what about Nancy? And he's like, yeah, but Nancy's different from other girls. And I was like, oh, Steve.
Yeah, right. She's only different because
she's the one that like
her different in your brain.
Yeah. And that's the difference. Yeah. Yep. I mean, and that's what's so hard for me to understand about guys and always has been, because like I always sort of think of guys through this like, oh, they're all really kind of just fuckboys prism, until you're like, oh no, wait, they do actually have emotions. But it just kind of has to take the right person a lot of the time for them to pinpoint those emotions. I'm not talking about every guy, obviously, but just like your random guy on the street that you're like, okay, that guy's kind of a douchebag. Mm-hmm. They usually do have the capacity to become a person with an actual emotional connection.
Right.
As opposed to just sort of this caricature of what, like how Steve was at the beginning of last season. That there is the actual like, but I love her sort of person under there. You just have to find it. And they're not expecting to find it either until they do. And then they're like, yeah, but she's different. I'm like, no, you just think she's different. And you need to realize that all these other girls were not any different. And you should not have been treating them like that. Just saying, Steve. Come on. Although some of those girls are pretty terrible. So,
I mean, yeah, if you were dealing with his...
like that redheaded bitch?
Yeah,
fine.
Joker face.
Toss her aside. Don't care.
And then he tells Dustin how to do his hair. He uses the Farrah Fawcett spray.
That's so funny. The Farrah Fawcett spray. And he's like, if you tell anybody, I'm going to murder you.
Yep. And they're basically chumming the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
Leaving this long trail because they're trying to lure this thing into an abandoned area where they can take it out without other people being disgustingly, horribly maimed, injured, and or murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And
as plans go, it's okay.
Yeah, right.
And is it the same when they hit on a bus last year? Is this the same junkyard-y sort of thing? Yeah.
Yeah. Hopper is trying to get in touch with 11 from his truck unsuccessfully. Mm-hmm. He's been gone for days at this point. So, and he seems to realize that she's probably gone and just like kind of has a little bit of a meltdown in this car. Yeah. And Dr. Reiser is in the boardroom with the doctors who are looking at slides of his brain. And everyone basically, except for him, is like, hey, this kid is collateral damage. If we have to kill him in order to kill this other thing, then so be it. And he's like, you better fucking think about what you just said to me.
He says, say that to me again.
Yep.
which that stuck with me. Or either that or say that to me one more time, because he's just like, no. Are you hearing what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
No. But then also I'm sure part of his brain is like, fuck.
Yeah, he just gathers his files up finally and just leaves.
So Paul Reiser's actor, Dr. Reiser, is less of a bad guy than I was really expecting him to be.
Yes, same.
He does not want to hurt this kid if he can avoid it.
Yes.
And he really wants to avoid it.
Yes.
He really actively is like, I don't want to have to torture this small child.
Yep.
And they're all like, yeah, but if we don't do our like scheduled burn on this thing, we're in trouble, and it's going to take over everything, and it's going to take him over anyway, and he'll be dead by the end of the day, so who cares? And it sucks.
Yeah, and I mean, like, from a purely logical standpoint,
they're not. This is like the whole like putting people on a railroad track thing, whatever that old drawing is, the pragmatic concept of, we've got, if you go this way, you'll kill one person, you go this way, you'll kill 5 people. Is it that much better to only kill one person than 5 people? Like, what if that one person is, what if it's the one person that something like, there are all these other like weird ethical questions that go along with that. And I've never took ethics, so I didn't really care that much. But yeah, so do they kill this one kid, basically, especially when they're like, he'll probably just die soon anyway. Or they don't say, or he'll just be totally taken over by this thing and become its instrument, which seems somewhat logical. And I feel like someone other than Mike should have figured this out. These are doctors who are dealing with this. It should not be on the 12-year-old.
Well, I think like really what it is that they don't really believe that Will is connected to a creature that is, you know what I mean? I think that's the main thing, is that...
Right. They don't believe that this thing has sentience.
Right, exactly. So he sits up finally, Will, and says to Mike, I think I know how to stop the shadow monster. And we find out later that this was not Will talking to Mike.
And I don't like it.
Nope. Me neither.
Oh, we didn't talk about, there was that whole scene where they do the sort of like Wizard of Oz, go around the room. Do you know who that is? Do you know who that is?
Right,
and that's super creepy. Where he sees Mike and he's like, that's my friend.
Yeah.
And then it takes him a second and he's like, Mike. And I'm like, I don't like any of this.
Yeah, I know. It's a real, like, they really are subtle with the way that they have this, like, surface. And it's so unnerving. I just...
Because sometimes it is Will, and sometimes it is not. Because, at the end, when he said, he's like, I had to do it. That's Will talking again. So he's still in there. It's not like he's been totally eaten alive by this shadow monster yet. But sometimes he's not in control of what he's able to say.
Yeah.
Ugh, I hate it.
So at the like dump / whatever site, Dustin and Steve are met by Lucas and Max, and Lucas tells Dustin that he told Max everything. Dustin kind of flips out on him, and they're like bickering behind this car until finally Steven is like, dickheads, why are you not helping me? And it's just this random girl doing everything. Get the fuck up. Let's go.
Yeah. And Steve immediately picks up on that this is the girl that Dustin was talking about. And that things aren't going exactly the direction that Dustin was hoping they might go.
Poor Dustin. Like,
you know what? Not poor Dustin. Dustin's been fucking up for the last couple episodes. So you know what? I'm going with Max on this and looking at Lucas.
I think
sorry.
I mean, I just mean poor Dustin in general. That he's like, it's always hard when you just see it.
Yeah.
Instead of it being part of like, I gotta tell you something, buddy. Like, it's just not even something that it feels like Lucas is completely aware of.
No, he's just watching it happen.
Yeah.
And like, fuck. Yeah.
So,
and I love that too about what you just said about Lucas not even realizing it's what's happening, because I think that's very true to life too.
Right.
So him suddenly being like, wait, we're holding hands. Wait, what? No, never mind.
Yeah.
Because he's not on purpose falling for this girl at all. It's just sort of happening, which is cute.
It is cute.
They're cute.
So
it'll be less cute when her brother does whatever the fuck he's going to do to poor Lucas, which I'm not looking forward to. Don't say anything. I'm just saying I don't like where that's headed, because I just have a feeling I'm not going to like it.
That's fair.
So that's all. I don't see good things coming of this.
So there are two things happening simultaneously towards the end of this episode. We've got the junkyard with like very nice creepy fog, and it's, going to be the site of a bunch of these creatures getting attracted because of all this meat that's piled up.
Right, but they don't realize it's a bunch of creatures.
They think it's just their one guy.
And
I really wish that Will had been like, hey, so I vomited up like a bunch of these actually.
Yeah.
This
has been going on for a while.
And then we have all of the dudes who are underneath the town being sent into a whole other fucking disaster. Mm-hmm. So,
but it's a related disaster.
Unrelated, yes.
No, it is. No, it's related, because as soon as the only reason Steve doesn't die basically is because they all run off.
Because they get called back.
Right.
They
kill the other guys. Yeah.
And Steve, there's 4 of them there, but Steve is basically like, well, I'm the oldest, so I will go fight the monster.
I've got my job. Bat.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I love Steve going out there, and I think it's Max who whispers like, what is he doing? And Dustin goes, he's awesome. I just love that moment so much.
Because that's sort of what the whole audience is thinking at that moment. They're like, when did Steve become so awesome?
Right.
Because he's real awesome in this moment. He really is.
And Steve is real focused on the one that's coming at him. And Lucas sees the other and is like, dude, watch out. And he's like, kind of busy here. And he's like, no, 3 o'clock. And Dustin yells, Steve, abort. And he realizes that there's like 6 of them.
Yeah,
there's
at least 4. Yeah.
Janks.
It's no good.
He runs into the bus and manages to like get into the bus before it grabs his leg. But that bus is like all open up in the top, which they like failed to really think about. Understandably, they're a tiny bit distracted.
And they thought they were going to be dealing with one. They thought it was Dart. They didn't realize how big Dart had gotten either.
Yeah. Dart's like a pit bull
This
now.
might not even be Dart. Dart might still be out there, honestly. Like, these might be even bigger than how Dart is. I don't even know.
There's
no way to know which one of these is Dart. There's just a whole heck of a bunch of them. But luckily, they've got other places to be.
And they're in the middle of, like, looking down through the hatch at the top of the bus. And Steve is, like, ready. He's got his bat up and he's
really
ready.
Oh, man. Really doing it for me there.
Right? He's just like, all right, let's do this then, motherfucker. And then there's like this moment where it looks up, it turns its head, and they go sprinting away as a group. And this is when Lucas and Max are holding hands, and Dustin sees, and he looks at Lucas like he just cannot believe what he just saw, and how could you do this?
Right.
And he doesn't say anything, and I don't think Lucas even sees Dustin looking at him.
No, I don't think so either. I think Lucas just looks down at his hand and is like, wait, what the fuck? No, wait, stop.
Yep.
Because he and Max had been talking up on the roof and were all cute. Because she was like, I like you, stalker.
I love that she keeps calling him that. That's
a pretty adorable term of endearment, as those things go. You know, as long as he's not an actual stalker, then it's less endearing.
So we then see these dudes who are under the town, and they're inching along, and Hopper is looking at it and is like, oh, that's where I was, because he sees all the bones.
All the bones.
And then Will says, I'm sorry, to his mom. And she's like, what? And he says, he made me do it. I told you they upset him. And she's like, wait, what? He says, they shouldn't have done that. They shouldn't have upset him.
And Mike goes, the spy! Because he's such a nerd.
Mike goes sprinting down the hall to try and warn them. But these guards are meant to keep them out of the situation.
Because they're 12. So understandable.
Well, all of them. Like, Winona's not really...
Right.
Winona. Joyce is not allowed to pass either.
Come on. It's Winona.
It is Winona. And then these other poor guys are, like, in this fog to, like, that has...
starts springing up just like it did at the junkyard.
Yeah. Just like, oh, all of a sudden.
They're like, where is this fog coming from?
I'm assuming this fog is created because they need it to be cold, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my guess. That makes sense.
And they come leaping out, and just every single one of them gets taken out.
Just like immediately, super fast. And you see all the dots disappear.
Yep.
Including the Demigorgons.
Yeah.
They're gone immediately too. So what's that about?
It's pretty shocking when you're watching the radar thing on the screen, and it's just like gone, gone, gone. And Hopper is sitting there watching this whole thing, just like itching to get down there. Like, even though you know
he's livid.
Yeah, he's so, oh man, he's upset. And Paul Reiser just like hangs his head in this way that sort of, you feel like he's starting to come to terms with the fact that they might just have to let Will die.
They just have to kill the kid. Like, not even let him die. They may have to just straight up kill the kid.
Yeah. And as they're all having this like moment of shock, they hear something, and these baby Demigorgons start climbing up over the lip of the cement like hole in the ground. So,
and again, so mad at you. So mad. And then we were almost going to postpone this recording.
Yeah.
And I was being real good about it. I was like, it's Owen's birthday, whatever we got to do, it's fine. And I'm sitting there going, I can't believe I have to wait another fucking 2 days before I can do it. And not even like just 2 days, we're going to do it at night. So I can't watch it until Friday morning, and then I can't watch it because my kids are going to be home because of goddamn Veterans Day. And although I have been watching it with Dahlia, I'll admit that. I did let Dahlia watch a couple of these episodes because I'm a terrible parent.
I think, like, they're scary, but there's no, like, there's,
right.
Minimal
and there's language.
Blood
She knows those words, so it's not that
Yeah.
big a deal. And so she's been doing this thing where she's like, if you can tell there's going to be a jump scare coming, tell me and I'll close my eyes and cover my ears. And I'm like, all right, fine. So Segev is showing her all of Community, basically. They're working their way through Community, and I'm showing her Stranger Things. And you know what? That's just, we're going to go with that. Mm-hmm. That's what we're doing with our 8.5-year-old right now, media-wise. Because we're so fucking tired of cartoons, I swear to God. Like, if I have to watch one more episode of Teen Titans Go, just no. She's got to start watching what we're going to watch. That's all there is to it. So yes, I probably will now watch them with Dahlia this evening, the next bunch, because I get to see 3, I get to see the rest, which is the good thing. The good thing about the way that we did this.
Yes, I think that this was the right call.
Yes, I agree.
I think, there's plenty to talk about in these, don't get me wrong, but I really think that it's easier with the arc of everything because that's how it's meant to be watched. So I think that is kind of how we should talk about it also, you know? Mm-hmm. So that's the end of that episode. Ta-da-da-da-da-da, we're done. Everyone, if you have anything you want to add, since we're going to be wrapping up next week, email us at unspoiledpodcast@gmail.com, and feel free to include spoilers in the email because I will be reading it before, Maggie doesn't, check those emails. And then by the time I talk to her, she'll be able to have read it anyway.
I will definitely have been, yes, these things are going to be inhaled sometime in the next, what time is it? Almost 3:00?
Yeah.
8 hours tops. Tops.
So yeah, guys, send that to us if you want us to include some of your commentary about the show. And if you would like to find out more about the show, go to unspoiledpodcast.com, facebook.com/unspoiledpod, Twitter @unspoiledshow, Instagram @unspoiledpodcast. And you can also become a patron of the show and get lots of other awesome content in addition to this at patreon.com/unspoiled. So yeah, and the show's doing pretty well on Patreon, and we're swimming along, and I've been very happy with the direction that everything is going. And I hope that if y'all have been enjoying the show, that you will go ahead and give us a review on iTunes. Because right now, the most recent review that we've gotten was September 28th, 2016.
Okay, but fair. We've only done the one episode so far, and it's harder because people don't get in the mindset of leaving reviews after one episode. But hi!
I actually don't. I'm checking it again because I'm realizing that I don't think I refreshed this before we started, which I normally do. So we might have a new one, and I just haven't seen it yet. So if you have left a review, give me a second. Chill out. Everybody calm down. Christ's sake.
Yes, if they show up, even if they show up between the time this is being recorded and they get posted, we'll see, we'll look, we'll check. So, those of you who tend to give reviews, we'll give you credit. We appreciate it.
Candace's review that she left last year is 5 stars, and I don't even go here. It's not a secret that I did not enjoy Stranger Things as much as the collective universe did, but I didn't hate it. And maybe I'll even watch season 2. Maybe. That is the most recent review. And they only gave us 3 stars, and they said decent. So, guys, come on over in here and, boost this shit back up again.
Yeah.
I think that's everything. So, you have anything you want to add, Mademoiselle, before we sign off?
Nope.
All right. Well, I hope you guys are enjoying our coverage, and we'll see you next week with the final 3 episodes of Stranger Things 2. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.
When we listen to the radio, we never agree on the station.
Classic rock.
Hip-hop. Pop. Guys, quiet. The one thing we do agree on, we all want an awesome free phone. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 free phones of your choice from brands you love, like Samsung, Motorola, and LG when you switch. Metro PCS. Wireless figured out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Free phone requires port. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.